Welcome back to the Balance Boldly podcast for ambitious women in business and a few brave men. I'm your host, Nikita Renthigpen. Listen, I am taking a deep breath today for myself. For those of you who have been following the BBP, you know that I talk about being intentionally selfish all the time. I wrote a book called Selfish, which is literally just my personal transformation and survival story. But I stand by making the spaciousness for yourself, which high level is all of what intentionally selfish behavior is about. Not about being in your ego or being mean to people. It's giving yourself the spaciousness to do what feels good to you, to have that personal, intimate gift to create joy your way. And when I created some spaciousness for myself a few moons back in one of my micro sabbaticals, I have quite a few that I do in the year. The ones that people really know about are the self-love-cation that I do over the summer for 6 weeks annually, as well as the whole business. We go on a complete micro sabbatical. We have an end of year kind of winter solstice one. And then I have these little hybrid micro sabbaticals that sometimes are really like workations that I do because I am a lazy overachiever. And sometimes I need to have a little bit of lazy, honoring my rest, as well as my need to honor the fact that I have this project that I really want to birth out or complete and wrap up. And so all of those things are really important to me. And I notice that I attract a lot of clients and client partners and power partners that feel the same way. So I kind of, dreamed up this term called the Lazy Overachiever to be a little tongue in cheek around how I play when I'm selfish, which is really honoring that those parts of me, both the overachiever and the little lazy part where I just want to sit up and wiggle my toes or give myself some version of permission to pause, to play and live and love and laugh and do all the fun things. So in a recent one, when I kind of dreamed up the term, the lazy overachiever, and I realized that I could really double down on this in such a beautiful way, I decided, as a podcaster, as a woman in podcasts, as someone who loves to have exchanges on air, off air, these tea conversations, including with myself, because you may not know this, but I'm verbal. I'm sure you know it by now. And I love to process. And sometimes processing is talking out loud. So I decided to create another podcast. And of course, it will be called The Lazy Overachiever, with an intentionally selfish segment inserted in it, because it's all relevant to everything that I talk about here at the Balance Boldly podcast. So I want you to kind of celebrate with me as we move through these new phases. No, the BBP is not going anywhere. We love our ambitious women and few brave men that tap in every single week, that email or DM that let me know that they had a beautiful takeaway from one of the phenomenal interviews or even solo narrative conversations like the one we're having here. It really does matter to receive your feedback. It really does light me up. And the algorithm loves when you not only give the feedback to me, but you also subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you are listening to this to, because then it tells whatever that platform is, like, hey, this is something that we want to promote. So please, if you're not already doing that, if you've been a listener for a long time, or you just happened upon this episode, make sure that you just take 30 seconds and rate and review it. Of course, subscribe, and 2 minutes if you want to really go in and give like a detailed review. Totally up to you, but I appreciate it. And so does the algorithm. With that said, listening to all the feedback and hearing how grateful so many of you are for the nuggets that are shared through the journeys and the stories that so many of our phenomenal, potent humans that are our guests that we attract to the BBP. Hashtag y'all, we get like hundreds of applications to be on the show a month, like pitches, emails, DMs through the website. I don't even promote it as something that we offer, but we get really flooded with a lot of requests. So I try to be very specific in who I bring to you. That we're usually finished recording for the whole year, to be quite honest, or at least finished scheduling for the whole year by spring at the top of every year. And that's how it's been for the last 4 or 5 years because of all the requests that we get. And so then we take a beat and, bring in more guests or start reviewing. We do our review roundtable once a month and look at, the more qualified reviews and pitches that we get and really see what's aligned, who's aligned, who our audience will most likely really vibe with, resonate with, and could truly learn from. And in some of that feedback, I heard you guys really clearly when you said that you wanted some more of Nikita. You wanted more of my thought process in addition to the beautiful conversations that we have. So we will still have those conversations. We will kind of keep the BBP more interview based. And with the Lazy Overachiever show that we are opening up, that will include videos where this is very traditional audio only podcast. The TLO, as we're calling it, because I'm sure you can see that I love acronyms, that will have more video. It'll also have more narrative based conversations with me. I am not going to pretend that it's going to be, a masterclass every week. That's not what my intention is. I really want to pour into you. I want to share stories, whether it's travel stories that are coming, takeaways from my advisory sessions with my power couples and potent humans, when we do organizational workshops, when we reopen our certified success architect certification program in the spring. Some of the takeaways that are coming from that for the people who are going through that 4-month process and any other thing that we're doing. So this will really be more of a string of thought / behind the scenes with no holds bars conversation in the TLO that I'm bringing forth to you. And I just want to give you a little context for why I decided to do it. So Balance Boldly is really about the women and men, those humans that I interview, sharing how they create work, life, and love balance through the various ways and various pivots that they've had along their journey. Many people have gone from corporate to entrepreneurship, are doing both. They may work in an organization and may run 2 or 3 other businesses, whether it's strategic, engineering, consulting, tech, marketing, all across all the layers, holistic medicine. There's so many different things. And then some people have only been founders and or small business entrepreneurs their entire life and don't know anything about the corporate arena. So the underlying thread for all of those humans that I bring to you here through the BBP is that they're willing to be vulnerable and honest about what worked, what didn't work, why they are so passionate about whatever way that they're bringing forth their purpose in the world through their organizations and or businesses. We're not shaming people who are in corporations and organizations, and we're not shaming people who are entrepreneurs, founders, or small business humans. We are looking at our through line, our thread of our humanity and how that shows up again in work, life, and love. And I'm sure for many of you who have been listening, sometimes people are a little bit heavier on how they serve their communities and how it shows up for them. And some people take it very intimately and very personally and share their own journey. In either way, we have phenomenal time having those conversations, and so many gems are dropped. Literally every single episode. And I really do enjoy it. I've been podcasting since 2012. The version of this podcast that you have now, the Balance Boldly podcast, took off in 2016. We had a couple of other versions, Balance Beam and some other versions in between under the same title before. And I realized I really love these conversations. Like, I could get paid to do this all day long, like truly. And I would do it for free all day long, but I don't believe in passion tax. So, and if you're not familiar with that, that's a lot of organizations want to bring you in to speak or to share or to be on a panel and to do all these things. And they want you to basically pay with your passion, but they're not necessarily rewarding you for your expertise by seeding into that so that you can continue to do more of what you do. And I believe it's a form of exploitation. So that's a whole different conversation. But in alignment with that portion of it, the lazy overachiever is really coming from that. There's a lot of alignment that I've attracted from a lot of humans from all over this world, not just from the United States, where they're like, hey, I identify as a lazy overachiever because I work really hard. I have, a suite of accomplishments that I should be really excited about, that I should be wanting to, tell people from the hilltops, but it's hard to do because I'm so exhausted. I'm so overwhelmed. This hustle and grind culture that I have been sucked in for various reasons. For some people, it's because of people pleasing natures. For some people, it's FOMO, the fear of missing out. For some people, it's just because they're surrounded by so many other doers that just do and do and do and go and go. And it's infectious and they feel like they have to keep up. They have to stay in it. Even if they're all doing different things, it's just the energy of do, but they're not able to be. They're not able to be in their body, to be themselves, to be in a space of peace and joy and stillness and quiet. They're not safe enough to be still in their body because when they try to give themselves permission to pause, or someone gifts them a certificate to, a spa or, a go eat by yourself day just so you can take a beat, they feel guilty. And there's a lot of shame that comes up for, hey, I'm doing this, but I should be doing that. There's a lot of shoulds that come up for people. And I just disagree with it. I feel like those days for many of us that are no longer in our teens and tweens and our early 20s, we put in the work. We've already proven that we've built those muscles of do. And although we need to keep those muscles alive with some doing, you never just want to turn them off and sit on a couch and eat bonbons all day. You don't necessarily want that to be the only muscle that's worked. You want to work your receiving muscle. You want to be able to receive stillness, receive play, receive laughter, receive love, and not just be in the space where you're constantly creating it and giving it to others, because then you start to be in an imbalance with yourself and truly out of alignment, and you start to resent your availability. I was just having a group coaching conversation, which I've had many, many times in different forms, around this very thing of empowering your boundaries and understanding the difference between accessibility and availability, which is really challenging when you have been known to be such a giver. You almost identify by it. And I am a giver. I'm one of those people that I'm talking about. I love to give. I am an overgiver in so many ways. I've also been burnt out by it. I've been betrayed in the process of it. I've had people assume that I was naive or gullible, or think that they had a position in my professional life, my personal life, and our familial kind of friendship life. Like if we've gotten to the point where we call each other brother and sister or sister and sister or whatever, that people will take advantage of it if you allow them to, because they're so used to your giving nature. And I've given until I went emotionally broke, and it's not okay. You also don't want to have to do all the therapy I had to do for it. Like nothing, you should be in therapy. Every therapist should have a therapist. Every coach should have a coach. Every teacher should be taught, and every trainer should be trained, right? Like all the things, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where this badge of honor of giver, of doer, of boss bitch, of all these terms that we have, honored ourselves with, and, secretly even patted ourselves on the back by, are literally destroying you. So this hustle culture nature is not in alignment with this lazy overachiever. And because I realize I'm attracting many other people that feel the same way, I said, well, let me create a space for us. I'm going to start with the podcast, and eventually TLOA, which is the Lazy Overachiever Alignment Hub, which we will talk about at another time on that show, is kind of what is all being birthed out of that. But the Lazy Overachiever, the podcast itself, is really to get rid of this myth, this way of being, and create a safe space where it's not a glorified hustle and bustle grind culture over here for the lazy overachievers. We really want to rewrite this narrative. And when I say we, I mean everyone that I'm attracting, where I'm having these private conversations, these BTS behind the scenes conversations on and off microphone, because some of them you'll hear about, because there will be some interviews in Tiloa, but very specific spotlight interviews with people who get it, who understand, that don't have to be convinced about why lazy. One thing I don't like to do, if you haven't noticed that about me now, and if you've been a follower of this show or any other thing that Nikita Ren Thigpen has done, I don't like convincing people. I want to convey through my modeling. I want to convey with my passionate expression of my energy, with my kindness, and with my intentionally selfish behavior, because I make the space for me to do my own work. And that is what being intentional selfish is all about. And because I do my own work, then I have even more spaciousness to create my joy my way. And life is not rainbows and candy canes all the time. Just because I say that, there's still, tsunamis and hurricanes, a few intervals and, storms that come along in different ways, because life is lifing for all of us humans on this planet. With that said, I'm still a very peaceful person, and I'm not saying it to say it. This is how I live and I breathe and I move. And when I have a stressful, out of aligned experience, I'm able to quickly rebound because I have a circle of reciprocal influences that I can call on and come with my curated wacky thoughts of like, this is where I am. This is where I'm all over the place. And I have a safe place for that. That happens to start with my forever lover, but I also have other people outside of that, especially on the business end. And I can rebound quickly because I've done so much of the work and because I remove the guilt around being intentionally selfish when I need that time to rejuvenate, recalibrate, to refuel myself, to rest and sit on the couch and wiggle my toes if that's what I choose to do. And it aligns with me so well that I don't have to apologize to myself. And for many of you listening to this, I know for a fact that is going on, where you're constantly apologizing to yourself, sometimes fussing yourself out in a very unkind way because you feel like you should be at a different place in your life by this point, or you feel like you should be at a different place in your business or your career or your relationship at this point. And what I am here to say is, as a lazy overachiever, I believe that everything is in divine time. Everything. That means you have to act when it's time to act. You can miss a window and it will come back around to you, and that time will be divine, but you could have had a divine time earlier on if you were willing to truly get out of your own way. And I don't say that as a shame and blame, but just as a recognition of what can happen to all of us when we are ambitious and we are codependent on that ambition. And it's really time to just rewrite that narrative around laziness and turn it from what I call a faux pas into your freedom card by really honoring that you have the right, the privilege, you are worthy of time to recalibrate, for rest, for rejuvenation, for recreation, even. Like, you are worthy of all of that. And I want you to say yes to yourself every once in a while. Just say yes, because it really is time for us to do things differently, especially if you are a analytical creative, whether that shows up in an organization as an executive position or director position, or if you're an analytical creative that's showing up as a founder, a startup, an entrepreneur, small business owner, consultant, somewhere along that lines. If that's who you are, the best way to show up fully is to allow yourself that permission to power down so you can power up fully. And so that's why I'm starting the new show. So it will be a complement to the Balance Bully podcast. We'll have a lot of fun, though. I'm already, having conversations. I'm already recording interviews. I'm already recording the solo narratives. And again, I do not want you to come with an expectation that this is like a masterclass class. I mean, some of them naturally, because again, I'm verbal and I'm very brilliant and I'm a nerd. So I don't dim those things. And many times it just comes out. I didn't intend for this to turn into a teaching session for 10 minutes, but hey, that's what it is. That's where my spirit led me. So that's where we're going. But I do want you to know that this is a safe space to be heard and to be seen. And although I may not have the camera on you and can physically see your face as a subscriber, as a listener, I am speaking to your heart. And if you resonate with that, I want you to simply subscribe and share with other people. And of course, because it'll be a videocast platform. So we'll be on all the podcast platforms, the Apple, the iHeart, all the places, Spotify and such. But we'll also have a video component. Wherever you are happy getting that, I want you to make sure you also add some context of takeaway, of review to it, because again, it helps us get in front of other lazy overachievers. Just like when you do it here at the BBP, it allows the Balance Boldly podcast for ambitious women in business and a few brave men to also get in front of the right people who are looking for this type of energy, for this type of conversation, for this way of receiving their nuggets and not necessarily being lectured at, but being a part of a conversation, which is my favorite way to learn, but it's also my favorite way to give when it's in a non-judgmental, sacred space. And we can all just participate in whichever way we can. And your way, my friends, were literally to be engaged listeners. And the best way to do that is to take that 30 seconds and, give a 5-star if that's what's aligned with you, to subscribe so you get the notifications if we're going live once that week or twice that week or once every couple of weeks, whatever it will be. And let's really see what this project will be. Ultimately, as it's birthed out into the space in just a few weeks from the time that you're listening to this, I am truly excited about it. It's a whole new level of what I'm sharing. Many things are staples, work, life, and love will always be a part of every conversation because I am a balance and relationship advisor. Coaching is a tiny piece of what I do. As a trauma specialist and a clinician, that's a tiny piece of what I bring to the table with all of those therapeutic tools. Strategy, consultation, mentorship are tiny pieces of what I bring. Metaphysical learnings are tiny pieces of what I bring. And like all those pieces and so many more make me who I am. And what you get is all of me in the conversation. But intuitively, what I give is what I feel you need. What my spirit is leading me to believe that this energetically is where I need to go in this conversation. And every conversation is like that for me. So I hope you will join me staying a listener at the BBP and playing with us every single week when we are live. And sometimes we have some People Choice Awards like during, sabbatical time that are just, the best of that we've been hearing or we got like high downloads on or people saved and responded to. But most of the time they are, live conversations that are happening every single week. We record at least 44 interviews every single year for the BBP alone. And for TLO, which is the Lazy Overachiever, that will be more like a 70-30. It'll be 70% Nikita, string of thoughts, micro masterclass. Micro is highlighted there, highlighted intentional word, providing strategy, tools, and tips around how you can rest and relax and recalibrate if you haven't been safe enough to do that, or you just don't know what to do when you're traveling and you're like me, maybe you add a day or two at the end of a work trip just so you can kind of recalibrate. But for many of our clients, they will add that time strategically, but then not know what to do with it, or end up doing more work and things like that. So there's lots of those kind of tangible things that I'll be providing on that show. But I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I hope you are too. I do want you by everything, please email or DM, at asknikita@thinkpro.com. Any of your, hey, Nikita, can you address this? I would love for you to talk about how you handle that. Give me a little context, a little story. And at the end of your email or DM, just put either your first name and the city, state, or country that you're from, like Nikita, Philadelphia, comma, US, or Nikita, Ghana, comma, South Africa, something like that. Or if you don't want your name, put dash anonymous. And I would still love to know what city and or country you're hailing from. That would be great. And any other way that you want to identify yourself, but that would be fantastic. And it's important for you to put that, because if you want to be anonymous, obviously on an email or a DM, we can see your handle. So I don't want to call out your handle if that's not what you want, or your name. But I will be reading some of those questions and using that as part of the preparation as well. So I'm excited, y'all. I just wanted to bring that to you. I know this isn't our normal format for the BBP, and you will get back to your regularly scheduled programming because we have some phenomenal topics coming up. On the BBP. If you haven't had a chance to listen to some of the fantastic episodes that we've had just in the last few months alone, from dealing with conflict to stillness to creating ripples across generations to authenticity and transparency. I mean, we've been going in. So please, by all means, set, a BBP binge day and just listen to a bunch of stuff if you're curious as what kind of questions that you can think of if they're not dropping into your spirit immediately. And then email me oh, I was listening to this episode and this came up for me. I would love for you to talk about it on the TLO. Because again, with Lazy Overachievers, we are absolutely doing everything in our soul and our heart and in our spirit to rebel against the rush. We're embracing a little bit more of our own laziness so we can work less and trust our inner brilliance more. That is super important to all of the divine beingness that is the Lazy Overachiever, and I am standing for it as we head into the years to come. So thank you again for being with me. Look forward to all of the things that are coming up for the BBP continuously, as well as for the Lazy Overachiever show, coming to a platform near you very soon. As always, I want you to share this episode if it makes sense and it's aligned with someone that you know needs to also have this heads up. But more importantly, in this moment, I want you to enjoy the balance of your day. But remember, do it boldly.